What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about MicroStrategy today. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it. So I don't know what's going on with this thing, man. MicroStrategy is deciding to decouple from Bitcoin or something because we're up 1.6% while Bitcoin's actually down about 2%. Which I don't know if you guys remember this time at all, but Bitcoin was moving up and MicroStrategy was moving down. Right? It would move up 1%, and MicroStrategy would move down 2 or 3%. So I don't know whenever that flip happened, but maybe, just maybe, this kind of price action is a inkling of an idea that we don't have to drop as low as we had previously considered. I'm not saying that necessarily, but it's definitely, I definitely want to put that out there. You know, if Bitcoin drops, let's say it drops 10 to 13% like I expect it to from this current price of about 82K, and MicroStrategy drops the same amount, well, that'll put it basically at these lows. Now, that doesn't necessarily make sense to me because I can't imagine a low being grinded out like this and actually prevailing. I can't see that happening, right? It'd be like this. This was not a low area that prevailed, right? You had to break through it. You found a tip, and then boom, that prevails. This little tip here, that prevails, right? But when you grind out these areas, you break through them, right? Every single low, you don't find a grinded out low. I mean, this kind of, I guess, but even for a day, you had like a tip there, but kind of that might be a good example. That's a point in the case against what I'm saying there. But let's say it does. Let's say it does drop more than Bitcoin, which is what I would expect to happen, right? If Bitcoin drops 10%, I would think MicroStrategy drops maybe 15% or 20%. Perhaps MicroStrategy doesn't go down below $200. Perhaps that doesn't happen, or down to 200 at all. Maybe we just go to the next shelf area here where you found support before, resistance before, something like this. You didn't find any resistance back here, but that could be where you go. I could see that happening. You know, you're at 266 now, 220 could be the target area. At any rate, I definitely believe MicroStrategy still has lower to go because I don't see a scenario where Bitcoin could drop down to 72 to 73K and MicroStrategy doesn't drop. But here's the deal. There's actually one scenario where that could happen, where this whole theory could be wrong, and it doesn't require MicroStrategy to decouple from Bitcoin. Today's Thursday, right? Tomorrow's Friday. MicroStrategy is not open on Saturday and Sunday, but Bitcoin is. So if Bitcoin does a very Bitcoin-like endeavor, let me just delete this so it's not all that noise, which is drop a lot in a very short amount of time, but on Saturday and Sunday, and then pump back up a lot in a very short amount of time. If we have a dump and pump on Saturday, Sunday, or starting Friday after the stock market closes, I think that gives us enough time. I mean, in one day, we saw some wicked volatility here. In one day, we saw wicked volatility there. Same thing here, right? These lows, they don't have to be grinded out. They can be very sharp, very, very quick, and very volatile, right? We've seen this happen before. In fact, I'm kind of curious. When did these lows happen? That was on a Monday. And to be fair, the Monday chart for Bitcoin actually starts most of that day. Most of the Monday day happens before the stock market's actually open, right? Same thing with this. Most of that had already, or that was on Friday. Oh, I thought this was the third. Okay, I was thinking this one. The third here on Monday, that drop, most of that happened before the stock market was open. Let me put it in perspective, right? This chart starts in UTC for Bitcoin. So at midnight, the 0 hour, the new day begins at like 6 o'clock my time, Mountain Time, which would be 8 o'clock Eastern Time, which would be 4 o'clock Western Time. So in the United States, a good portion of Monday, like half of it or more, has already happened by the time the stock market opens. So what I'm getting to, and I just wondered too, when was this? This was on a Monday as well. Isn't that kind of funny? They're all on Mondays or Fridays. Friday, I would assume probably after the stock market closed. So sometime between Friday after the stock market closes to Monday before the stock market opens, sometime between then, I would assume that could allow Bitcoin to drop to 72 to 73K and then not impact the price of MicroStrategy really at all. Maybe it impacts it a little bit. Perhaps MicroStrategy has a day where it opens down pretty low and you do see a lower low than this, but I'm having a hard time at this rate seeing it drop too much more below 220 unless unless we do see this drop happen while, over the next 2 days. And it can happen over the next 2 days, but let's just see. I mean, what would that be? That's an 11.8% drop with MicroStrategy, from Bitcoin's high here in January to the low that it's got now. Bitcoin has dropped 30% overall, whereas MicroStrategy, just to kind of illuminate the point here, has dropped 57% overall. So not quite double, but 57% compared to 30%, that's basically double. It's almost double, right? It did take more time to happen. MicroStrategy moved down more consistently, in all fairness. But if I was to take it here, if I was to cherry pick and say 47%, well, in that same time, by December 31st, Bitcoin had dropped only, let's see, December 31st, that would have been by here, right? This time over here, it had only dropped 14%, or 15% overall, right? So 15.7% versus 47%. I don't know, it's somewhere between double and like 3 times, 4 times the amount. I'm going to go with double, or at least around there. If Bitcoin is to drop 11.8% or thereabouts, right, let's just say like 11 to 13%, 10 to 13%, something like that, I would anticipate MicroStrategy might not drop completely double, but I mean, we would definitely see something that's around 220 or lower, right? If it were to be double, we'd probably see something that's at 195, something that's just below 200. And what's just below $200 right here? This prior area of resistance. Actually, that's 200 on the dot, the tip right there. But the closing price right here would be $200, and then or just below $200. And then this area here, there's a lot of support at 200 and just below 200, between 200 and 180. So if if we were to drop through here and see some kind of significant 20% dump or more, we would definitely find support in this area. But I'm just having a hard time right now. If this were to happen, why is MicroStrategy moving up and Bitcoin's moving down? In fact, I think MicroStrategy's only moved up since we've been making this video. I'm not 100% on that, actually. Maybe it moved down a little bit. Actually, it has moved down a little bit. So is Bitcoin, but still, I don't know. It doesn't necessarily make sense to me, but maybe what happens is exactly the story that I just laid out for you. Bitcoin drops over the weekend once MicroStrategy is closed, and then it pumps back up to prices that are probably around this area or wherever it closes on Friday, which will not impact the price of MicroStrategy too much. I am anticipating that we go lower still. I don't expect Bitcoin to drop and MicroStrategy's unaffected at all, unless it literally only happens over the weekend. But I don't expect Bitcoin to just move sideways today and tomorrow. But it could happen. I mean, Bitcoin can be boring. It can move sideways if it wants to. And maybe Trump and Saylor were like, hey man, we can dump the price down there, but don't hurt MicroStrategy. Do it over the weekend, okay? And then just bring it right back up before the stock market opens, okay? That way my stock isn't affected. I don't know. That probably didn't happen. Obviously, I'm not saying that can't happen. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I doubt that happened. It would surprise me if this was our low. You look at the daily RSI, you still are in a downtrend. You're not necessarily showing weakness here, but you're also not showing strength, right? You've got the right posturing to build out of this, but overall the prevailing trend is absolutely down. So I would expect that you do come down. You probably form a higher low on the oversold area to like right here, so it'll be like a higher low overall, paired with a lower low in the price. I wouldn't call it bullish divergence because you still have this low here, but some sort of divergence nonetheless. If we look at the weekly time frame, again, this just kind of it's a know-nothing area that wouldn't make sense necessarily to find support. The next area would make at least some sense, and that would be at about 225. Just a little bit lower, nothing crazy. But then also based off the fibs, the golden ratio would be the most appropriate place to go to, especially with the way that you look here. If you were to find support on the 0.5 and go up, you should have done it 2 weeks ago or last week at the very latest. This week you're not doing it. I don't know, unless in the next day and 6 hours you pump above 287, which I don't see that happening if I'm expecting Bitcoin to drop. Hold on, guys. But anything can happen. You never know. It would just make a lot of sense to go right there to 200, if not just below 200. But maybe you don't, man. I don't know. I'm not as confident as I was before, simply because MicroStrategy seems to not be behaving in the way that we expected it to. So we're just going to stick with the long-term stuff, because the long-term stuff, I don't care if it's today, tomorrow, this week, next week, last week, it's all the same, right? We haven't changed. Other than the targets getting a little bit higher, we haven't changed that. MicroStrategy, the same now as it was back here. is on its way to targets that are at $918 and above. I doubt we stop at the golden ratio. I fully anticipate that we'll stop at $1,153 to $1,600 and perhaps even just above $1,600. It's very common with the 2272 to wick right above it and then close below it, okay? Right above $1,600 is $1,700. That's a target that we came up with last week. So, you know, it's definitely on the table. I'm anticipating more, as I have been throughout this whole range, something around $1,100 to $1,300, right? That target hasn't really changed too much at all. 900 really has been the minimum expected target, but I really don't think that you would stop there. It doesn't. I mean, it can happen. It can happen. But let's see here real quick, right? Let's go with these breakout moves here. Low to high, 355%. Maybe not the low of this because I'm not taking the absolute low. I'm just taking the breakout moves. So let's take this low to high here. 362%, right? Those are pretty similar moves, symmetrical moves there. From a low to high, if we were to move up 362%, I mean, that takes us right below the target areas that we're expecting. And I don't know about you guys, but I would assume MicroStrategy probably sees a larger move up on this one than it did on its last move. That's my assumption. So something around $1,100 really is looking juicy. $1,300. I suppose this kind of scope makes a $1,700 price a little bit less likely in my opinion. But let's also run it with time because I'm expecting this will be done by the end of May. Let's see here. And I'm saying that now, yes, I was expecting we'd be at those targets by the end of January, by the end of February, by the end of March. We just didn't get moving. In fact, we moved to the opposite side. So that was a 9-week period there. This was like a 9-week period of moving. This was a 10-week period. If we were to move 9 to 10 weeks from here, let's say that this week was the beginning of our movement up. 9 weeks would put us in the middle of May. 10 weeks would put us toward the end of May. What if it does go until the end of May? Like here, that'd be 11 weeks. We have a little bit more time. That doesn't really account for that much more growth. So maybe 1,700, maybe 1,600 doesn't happen, but still I am focused on that 1,100 to 1,300 area. I do very much expect that's where we're going to go. So I got nothing else for you guys. I hope you liked the video. If it sounds like I'm a bit perplexed as to what to gauge off the price, that's because I am. I did not expect to see Bitcoin down today and MicroStrategy up today. There's something going on. MicroStrategy too, by the way, tends to lead Bitcoin in this market. It seems to top off beforehand and start moving up beforehand too. So that this could be an indication that we are, from a time perspective at least, getting ready to turn around. But we'll see. Time will go on. Wouldn't it be funny if we literally dropped for Bitcoin over the weekend, unaffected MicroStrategy at all, just threw off the whole idea of going below these lows entirely? I don't know. But then that would also imply that today we don't move down too much lower and that tomorrow we don't move down too much lower. And I doubt we're just going to rip from here. But if that happens, hey, if we move up, if MicroStrategy has room to move up, then maybe it does drop a little bit more than Bitcoin and still provides a higher low, right? Because if MicroStrategy today, tomorrow, by the end of this week, if it can close at like 280 or 290 or higher, you know, you get that 16% drop or more, you get something that's bigger than what Bitcoin likely drops, and you still form a higher low, which would kind of help out with me not needing to see you grind this area out. I have to sneeze. Ooh, but it's not happening. I wish it was, but why? It's this damn light, man. It won't let me sneeze. I'm not afraid to sneeze. I want to sneeze. I don't like to hold sneezes in. I think it's bad for you to hold a sneeze in, but I just can't. That one hurt, man. I was hoping that I could sneeze and I couldn't. Anyways, I'm going to end it on that note. Hit the like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Don't hold your sneezes in. You might think you're being polite. You might think that you're cool because you're holding them in, but you're not. It's like holding in a fart, man. Just let it out. It's better for you if you just let it out. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.